exciting few slides on digitization. Okay, I'm going to get started. So thank you, good evening. Thank you for having me. Quick round of introduction. I'm Nikhil Bansal. I lead the auto vertical at Google. I've been with them for almost close to 4 years, and I've been working with a lot of OEMs and dealer partners here in the room. So thank you once again. Next 15 odd minutes, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to talk to you a little bit on what is changing as an auto consumer, especially given the change from a dealer and from a digitalization in today's world. And I'm also going to tell you about, from a dealer standpoint, what can you do on Google and what can you do on digital. Okay, I think if everybody can see, okay, that's my slide. I think this is something which is not new to most of you, right? Today, digital is mainstream, and there's a reason to it. I mean, internet penetration in India today is, put the mic up. Am I audible now? Back out there? Is it better? Okay, super. So digital today is mainstream, right? Today we're adding close to 40 million odd internet users every year. And we're seeing almost, 400 odd people who are actually using the smartphone. So that's a large revolution when it comes to digital. It's a joke, right, which we tell back in the office. Is it not good enough? Is that almost if you got 78 organs, 79th organ is actually a smartphone. So I mean that this goes to show, and this particular slide actually talks about this. Everybody is on their mobile phone, irrespective of where they are in the day. Throwing some stats back at you. Back in the day, thanks to the whole telecom revolution, we saw like a massive drop in terms of data prices and a massive increase in terms of consumption of data. So 90% drop in consumption in terms of 90% drop in actually cost actually led to an 18x increase in consumption. And also with the digitization of the internet, we see almost close to 560 million folks who are now on the internet and almost 400 folks who are actually using smartphones. So this is big numbers, guys, because this is what needs you to start thinking digital first and mobile first. Now the next question can be the saying that, okay, this is great, right? So what does this impact and how does it impact you and me? Non-intuitively, commercial segment, the mass segment when it comes to two-wheelers, and also non-metro towns are actually showing a lot of activity online. For Google, our Q is Google search, and those are search queries when it comes to anything to do with these different segments. So we look at the three different stats, right? 40% is actually a growth on commercial vehicles on the internet. I mean, back in the day, nobody would actually think saying that, are these guys actually going to be searching for your respective brands? Today, we're seeing commercial vehicles. We're seeing your rise in biker commuter segment, which are folks who are actually the massy segment, who typically I would always think are not online. But these are folks who are actually spending a lot of time researching in the last 1 year. And also very interestingly, 55% of car searches today are coming from non-metros. And we all know that for most of the OEMs, almost 40% of the sales come from the top 11 odd cities. So the balance 60% is coming from outside. And that's what we're also seeing on the internet. Almost 55% of your searches are coming from non-metros. That means the rest of the top 10 to 11 cities. Just to add on, so one is the digital adoption, one is smartphone usage, one is internet penetration. But also from a consumer behavior, I think we're also changing, right? Today, most of us are very, very focused on experience and convenience. And the likes of Ola and Uber have also given that in our hands, right? Because we're seeing a lot of convenience coming through Ola and the Ubers. Back in the day, again, how many of us would have actually assumed that taxi hailing would become so simple in today's time? Moving forward, even getting onto e-commerce websites, whether it is Amazon, Myntra's of the world. Today, help at my place. I mean, they look at us getting packets in and then packets going out the next day, which are returns. I mean, they're all walking up and say, listen, when I want to buy online. So it's becoming so simple that everybody, which is India 2, India 3, rural markets, are actually coming online, looking and seeking convenience, which is really, really important. And that's what experience, right? Today, I think all of you would have heard right from the morning, everybody's talking about saying, keep your consumer at the center and keep your customer at the center. I think it's very important because they're also seeking the same value back from you as much as you are seeking from them. In Google, we actually bucket consumers into three broad pillars. We call them curious, demanding, and impatient. And I think most of us today fall in this bucket, at least I can speak for myself, that we're all fairly curious, we're all fairly impatient, and we're very, very demanding. And I'm going to break this down. So why be curious, right? Today, 90% of folks who buy a car actually research online. So what Google does every year globally and followed in India as well, we tie up with Kantar. Kantar is a research agency which works for us globally, and we take out India stats, and these are all India stats which you're going to start seeing from this slide onwards, on what are the kind of digital and changing consumer behavior that we're seeing in car buyers from a journey standpoint. So 90% of folks are actually seeking and researching online. And this is really important. So if people are spending more and more time, and you'll see this in subsequent slide, yeah, that out of 26 touch points, and this is a typical behavior, and all of you can probably read through each one, right from the time somebody probably starts his or her journey on Google search, getting onto a dealer website, an OEM website, going through a print ad, a TV ad maybe, walking into a dealership, testing a car, test driving the car, and obviously closing the deal. This entire journey, if it's split across 26 touch points, 21 of these are today digital. And this is not a slide, if somebody's been following the kind of slides which we take out in the market, this is a slide which is probably 2.5 years old. And it's very interesting because now market leaders have started quoting these numbers as they see it. So if anybody followed Mr. Kalsi in the recent ET Auto in 2019 September, he actually talked about this number which got picked up in PR. So now we're seeing a lot of leaders and a lot of non-believers actually saying that, listen, I'm seeing this every day. People are coming in, spending more time online. They're coming in more research. They're asking me the right questions. What do I do? So for all of you out here in the room, I think as a dealer fraternity, keep this in mind, because if your consumer is spending more time online, that is where your effort, money, and time should also be spent. So get yourselves ready, get yourselves present, and I'll talk about what you should do as we get towards the end of this slide. Now, coming back to you as a dealer fraternity, back in 2016, and the question was asked in this research saying that, what do you do, how much of your time do you actually spend online researching for your dealer? In 2016, this number was probably 48%. Fast forward to 2019, it's gone up to 60%. So people are, and users are searching more for you as a dealer community. It's important for you to be cognizant of that and take that to your advantage and leverage that fact. Second part is demanding. I think today every user seeks information, and they seek information of different sorts and kinds. It's important for you to understand what the consumer is looking out for, and not just leave it on what you want to show a consumer, but exactly what he wants or she wants. Try and show that information back. And this is a slide which we all know. We have been seeing a massive decline in number of store visits, the number of dealer walk-ins over a number of years. So this is nothing new, but what do you do differently? If you look at the far top, right, today, most of you would actually have your information talking about business hours, contact information, maybe at best, what is my closest location to you. But are you really showing information about maintenance, about your programs, about your promos? And I think those are really important slides to have, and very, very important information to actually show back to a consumer, because today consumers are looking out more for that kind of information and not just hygiene information around your contact information and how do I get to you. Moving on, being impatient, I think, again, as I was saying, all of us are pretty much here. While we say that 67% will actually close in 2 months, I think maybe in the last 1 year, these numbers would have changed because people are spending more time researching, not necessarily buying. But it's important to actually still be cognizant of this fact. And there are two ways of looking at this slide, right? One way is saying that, okay, people are using the smartphones at my dealership. The second way of looking at this number is saying that, people, are they really trusting the person on ground? The salesperson on the ground, if he's not a genius, I think if I'm a potential buyer and I walk into a dealership and I'm not convinced with what I've been told, I will probably look online and say that, am I getting the right information out? I was doing some research the other day, and if there's anybody from the BMW network here, BMW sales folks on ground are called BMW Genius, which is very interesting because those guys literally know more than the consumer, however much they would have researched. I'm going to flip another example. Has anybody bought a Dyson of late, a Dyson vacuum cleaner or anything from Dyson? I don't see too many hands, a couple of them. If anybody has booked a schedule as a demo back home, I mean, I was a non-believer and I actually bought a Dyson on the back of it. That person will come home, schedule an hour for you. He will walk you through his product like nobody else. You can do whatever research you want on Dyson. That guy will wow you like how. And I think that's the game changer. I think that's what all of you should do, especially at your respective dealerships. That how do you wow your customer so that he really, really sticks on to you and says that, listen, that's my differentiator. I don't need to go to somebody else. And we're also impatient when it comes to the last mile, right? Today, you've all got websites, you all have your presence online, but as we get into 4G, 5G, and probably sometimes 6G, 1 in every 2 people are going to drop off your website if it doesn't load in greater or lesser than 3 seconds. And these are very, very strong data points because folks, you're spending so much money and time on doing a lot of marketing efforts as an OE or as a dealer, but your last mile is you want that person to come and visit your website. And if your website is broken or the experience is broken, that respective consumer is going to drop off and he's not going to ever come back. So please keep these data points in mind as you prep and get yourselves ready for digital. Now the question is, you've heard a lot of data points, everybody's on smartphones, internet, they're doing the right things, impatient, demanding, curious, but how do I win this consumer? And for me, it's a pretty simple 3-step prong process, which is one is show up. If everybody is online, and we saw this, right? 26 touch points, 21 are digital. If you are not showing up as an OE or as a dealer, you're missing out on that consumer. And we call these moments that matter. People are online for different aspects. It's important for you to be there when they're present at different mediums. Second one is speed up. I talked about the impact of having really quick websites, but more importantly, how do you be seamless? How do you drive the same experience which you're trying to drive offline, even online? That is, could be in terms of content, the way a website is configured, how fast it is, and how relevant it is to the end consumer. I think these are very, very important data points to actually keep in mind as you prep for digital. And lastly, but not, I think probably the most important is how do you drive profitability? I think all of us in the room are here to make money, and all of you as dealers are also out there to make more profit. So I think, how do you go beyond just selling cars online, but also focusing on parts and accessories, financing, insurance, and those are areas where you can actually make a lot of money, and that's where the real margin is. So what is stopping you today from actually bringing those services also online? Because in my slides previous to this, you saw that people are actually looking out for such information from all of you. So this is my 3-prong process in terms of how do you win a customer. And I just want to end it with another slide on the last mile. I think empowerment and experience is super critical. Empowerment, why? If anybody is called out to an Amex call center, I think it's an experience by itself, right? Today, if there's any issue which you have on a card, if you're having a bad day, just call an Amex call center. That's a saying. And it's a saying because they are so highly empowered to take a call right then, right there, to help you as a consumer. So I think that's really important as you as dealers and as your fraternity to actually prep yourselves for actually being as empowered as anybody else to take a quick call. And last but not the least is experience. Today we're talking about potentially Amazon selling cars online. There's nothing stopping you from you selling cars online. I think a lot of OEs are in discussion with us saying that how do I, in a couple of clicks, actually fill out a lead and actually get somebody to actually buy my car or motorcycle. I think today we're not very far from that, but the last mile of actually consuming through a test drive is still going to be held back with you as a dealer fraternity. So just before I sign off, this is, if there's anybody from Honda here, this is a case study from Paragon Honda from the New York office. It's about how they actually leverage technology to actually get people to engage with them rather than wait for them to come to a dealership. So can I get this video to be played, please?
Having a car in New York City can be really stressful.
Taxi cabs can be assertive drivers, perhaps.
Parking is definitely not the easiest thing. And also, cars break down and they require maintenance.
My grandfather founded Paragon Honda. I think that he would not be able to fathom how different the industry is today.
It used to be in the 1950s when they were delivering cars to the dealership, they'd be covered and people would be waiting outside to see the cars come to the dealership. And today, we've lost that magic. Time is the new currency. You've got to move at the speed of the customer. You've got to think like a customer. What do your customers want? They won't tolerate waiting for a service. In fact, the whole notion of having to come to a dealership for service is outdated. We decided perhaps if we could pick up the customer's cars, service the car, and return the cars back to the customer, that would be a great convenience to them.
In New York City, real estate moves really fast. So if I'm going to be out getting my car serviced for 4 hours, that could be really costly.
Paragon's looking for ways to do everything and anything that a customer would do at the dealership online. We're trying to figure out how can we assist those customers on their time. And in fact, we're trying to take that to the next level, which is to do it using voice technology.
Hey Google, talk to Paragon Honda.
All right, getting Paragon Honda service. This is Paragon Honda. Would you like to book an appointment for a car service?
Yes. The Google Assistant is the thing of the future, and it's going to help make my business so streamlined.
It becomes completely frictionless, completely seamless, and this was a great way for us to exceed the customer's expectations. You can't afford today to put an ad on television and hope that some people see it. We use Google's marketing tools to create incredible efficiency. Our normal cost of advertising to bring somebody in the dealership and to sell them a car is about $500. Now today, using Google store visits, we've seen it through AdWords, it's costing us $100 to sell an automobile. We think that we can distribute our services using Google to help us, and I think anytime we do what's best for the customer, that ends up being what's best for the business.
I can just say, hey, Google, schedule service at Paragon Honda, and I don't have to worry about it.
Just simplifies the whole process of owning a car in the city.
I think my grandfather would be very proud. He was always progressive in his time, and now we're staying progressive in our times.
So thank you everyone, and that's my end. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, and may I request Mr. Sai Girdhar to please join us in presenting the memento. Thank you for giving us this exposure in the digital world. For technology today, as you said, is empowerment. Technology is data, technology information, technology is that experiential view, and adding more speed and scale and value to your dealership.